All right, well, it's 9 o'clock, so we'll go ahead and get started. And want to make sure we respect your time and make sure that we can get you out on time. So this is, I believe, the sixth episode of the Weathering the Storm workshop series that has been hosted by Prophet Creek and Rectify Partners. And the Weathering the Storm workshops are really all about giving you just really practical tools from subject matter experts. What we've done is really tried to pull together different experts in different areas of business and in life in general, and bring that to bear so that you can actually use these tools in your life and see some immediate results, and really help us come together as a community to weather these storms that we're in right now. And so we have some fantastic partners that are part of this movement. I'd like to call some of them out here. So Idaho Department of Commerce has been a big help for us. The Idaho Technology Council, the Southwest Idaho Manufacturers Alliance, SWEMA, the Idaho Aerospace Alliance, the Meridian Chamber of Commerce, Buy Idaho, Gavint Executive Network, and then our newest partner is Zions Bank. So, and we have Karen here representing Zions. So it's great. So the objective for today is really to give you practical tools that you can use right away and really help you capitalize on the chaos that's in your business. And so we're going to talk about that a little bit more and dig into that topic. So kind of the way it's going to work is I'll open up with an overview of the 6 key components of your business. And these are the foundations to your business, that you have them in your business today. And how can you help increase the strength in each of those components? And then Karen is, as I said, is with Zions Bank. She's the director of the Business Resource Center here in Boise. And so she's going to take that a little bit deeper, and she's going to really look at your business and some of the opportunities you have, the strengths and weaknesses you have, and some different tools and how you can help capitalize on some of the challenges. Because just because there's challenges doesn't mean it has to be a bad thing necessarily for us. So Mick Wiskerson with Rectify Partners is really going to help us think critically about some key areas of our business. And he also has an assessment he's going to walk us through that can really identify some key areas of opportunity. And then we're going to hear from Angie. Angie is with the Boise Music Lessons, and she's going to share what they did in their business and kind of some of the challenges they experienced and how they actually were able to capitalize on some of those problems or issues that came up. And then Cheryl Adams, my co-host, and she's also going to share about the story from PKG and some of the other businesses in the community that have had to pivot and some of the challenges that they had, but also how they used this and kind of the logic they used to identify the opportunities and capitalize on those themselves. And then finally, we're going to wrap up with a Q&A. And so we really want to hear from you. We'd love to have a lot of Q&A. So please post your questions, put them in the Q&A area. You can also put them in the chat if you'd like. But give us your questions so that we can make sure that we're staying on top of the questions you have that are important to you. All right, so that's our team today. Let's jump right in. So I'm gonna, you guys can go ahead and shut your screens down, and I'm going to share mine. And we will talk about capitalizing on chaos. So obviously, chaos is a big thing in our world right now, right? We've got coronavirus that we're trying to struggle through and hopefully getting near to the end of, but anybody's guess. We've got the riots and things that are going on, but have we already forgotten that I think we started out the year with maybe thinking about World War III, and we've got murder hornets, and we've got all kinds of stuff. So there's tons of chaos in the world right now. But really, if you think about it, think back in your business, even last year, think about 2019. Didn't you have chaos in your business then? There's always things that we're struggling with. There's always market disruptions. There's always challenges that we deal with. And so as business owners and business leaders, we've just got to be really good at identifying those things and being able to address them and be in a good position so that we can capitalize on that chaos. And what I mean by capitalizing on that is not profiteering off of somebody's misfortune. What I'm talking about is how do we make sure that our businesses are set up to know what we're about, and how can we take advantage of that so that our business stays healthy, that we stay on track with our vision, and are able to accomplish what we really want to accomplish with our business. So to start off, what I want to focus in on is really the core of who you are. So this model that I'm going to show you is all revolves around your business. And there are 6 key components to your business that you have today, like I mentioned earlier, and you just need to get really strong in those components. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you this model of these 6 key components, and then I'm going to dive into a couple of them real quickly. We just have a few minutes here to touch lightly on it, but I want to show you a couple of things that you can take and implement right away. So the first component is the vision component. This is all about understanding who you are, what you're trying to accomplish, and where you're going, and making sure that everybody is in alignment with that vision. Next is your people component. If you've got a business, you have people. So you're going to have to manage that, and how do you make sure that you have the right people, that they're doing the right things, that you're getting the business to go where you want it to go. Third is the data component. There are numbers and facts going on in your business, and you've just got to be really good at understanding what is the data telling me. How can I run my business in a way that is more logical and less prone to emotion and guesswork. Now, when you have your vision clear, you know where you're going. You have the right people in the right seats doing the right things, and you have the data to confirm all of that. Anything that's not right is just going to really stick out like a sore thumb, and because you really created this transparent organization, and so that's something you have to deal with, and it's something that we deal with even if you don't have those things right. You're always dealing with issues, and so that's the fourth component, is the issues component. And great leaders are just really good at identifying issues and then making them go away forever. A lot of times what we tend to do, though, is we don't want to address issues because we're so busy or so overwhelmed, and so we push those issues away. And so I want to talk more about the issues component here today as well. The fifth component is the process component, and so this is all about the right and best way to do what you do. And oftentimes this component is very neglected because we're so busy doing that we forget that to really codify that and document it and make sure that people are really understanding the right and best way to do what to run the business the way it needs to be ran. And when we have the process component right, it allows us to bring in people that are a better fit. They don't have to be superstars and rock stars that can come in and do the job. We can actually do this with the people that we have and accomplish great things. It really makes the business run way better, and it's a lot more enjoyable and a lot more profitable. And then finally, we have the traction component. And traction is all about taking this down to the ground. And so there's no mistake that vision is on the top and traction is on the bottom, because traction is all about execution. It's that accountability and discipline to execute your vision. And so we like to say in the world of EOS that vision without traction is hallucination, because you're just dreaming about things, you're hoping for things, but you're not really putting things in place to make that a reality. So these 6 key components, this model is what we call the EOS model. And so with the EOS model, what we're looking at is we want to get you to 100% in each of these components. Now, the reality is 100% really isn't achievable, because there's always challenges, right? There's no way you're going to hit perfection. But what if you could get to 80% in each of these components? Now, if you think you're at 80% now, then that doesn't seem like a big change. But the reality is, as we survey people, we find that the majority of businesses are actually running at about 20%. So I'm not going to say where your business is, that's up to you to decide, but the vast majority of companies are around 20%. And if you could get up to 80% or better, that's a substantial change. So let's jump into the vision component. Here's how this works. So the vision component is all about understanding who you are as a company, where you're going, what you're trying to accomplish. And to do that, there's 8 questions that you need to answer. So we're not going to have time to go through this whole document here, this vision traction organizer, but here are the 8 questions: your core values, your core focus, your 10-year target, your marketing strategy, your 3-year picture, your 1-year plan, your quarterly rocks or quarterly priorities, and your issues. What I want to do is I want to jump back and take a deeper look on a few of these. So the first one is core values. And core values is all about identifying who you are as an organization, what matters to you, what's important to you, who makes a good fit if they share these core values. And the reason this is important about chaos, because you might be thinking, well, what does this have to do with capitalizing on chaos? But if you don't have the right people in your organization, you're actually creating chaos in your organization. And so by getting the core values correct, you can actually get the right people in the right seats, the people that fit your organization. It also allows you to, in terms of capitalizing on chaos, is this is a great opportunity to be able to find and attract the right people that really fit in your organization, because there's been such a disruption in the economy right now. Second is your core focus. So the core focus is made up of two things. It's your purpose, your cause or passion, and your niche. So your purpose, cause, or passion is what you do really well, what you love to do, why you do. Excuse me. Your niche is what you do really well. Your purpose, cause, or passion is why you do what you do. What fires you up, what you really love to do. When you know that, your why, as Simon Sinek says, it really helps propel you forward. Your niche is what you do really well. When you combine those two things together, that becomes your core focus. And it helps you stay aligned, and it helps you stay laser focused on what you should be doing, as opposed to getting pulled away into different directions. Next is your 10-year target. And so this is also referred to as a core target. This is all about putting out that long-term goal that you can really help you understand what are you trying to accomplish here in the long run. And when you set 10-year goals or longer term goals, it doesn't have to be 10 years, it could be 30 years, whatever. But as you set those longer term goals, it really helps you stay mindful of the long play, as opposed to getting so wrapped around the axle with the things that are going on in your environment today. Now the people component, and I'm going to have to just kind of cruise through a couple of these slides, but I just want to expose you to this real quick. The people component is about two things. As I said earlier, right people, right seats. So right people is all about that core value fit. And so there's a tool that we use within EOS called the People Analyzer. Happy to share this with you. But basically along the top you have your core values, and then down the left you have the name of the individual. And then you rate them across as to how well they fit with those core values. And what that does is it helps you identify what you're really dealing with, and allows you to work through that. Can you coach them up, help them understand and have visibility to that? Sometimes you may have to coach them out, but at least it gives you some clarity as to what you're dealing with. And when you have clarity, then you can make the right decisions. The right seats is all about identifying the structure of the organization. And what we talk about is really look at the structure first. If you map out the structure of your organization, then it allows you to be a lot better at bringing those people in and getting the jobs done better, but also the people are a lot happier when you start with the structure first, people second approach. So real quickly, there's three basic operating functions in a business. There's the marketing and sales function, there's an operations function, and there's a finance function. And when you go through and you look at the world of accountability, there is a fourth function, which is the integrator, the person that kind of runs the day-to-day, keeps these different functions together. They're kind of the glue in the company. Once you've accomplished that, you want to go back through and you want to identify what are the roles for each of those seats. What are the 5 things that those people need to, if whoever's going to sit in this seat, they need to do really well, so that we know that that's getting taken care of in the business. And then we need to identify, do we have a visionary in the organization? Is there a person that has the big picture of where we're going? They're a lot more on emotion, and they have bigger plans for the company. They can see things that people can't see. For a visionary, what's not really in existence is actually real to them. And so that's great because they can paint that picture for the rest of the organization. So if we have that in the organization, we want to call that out, because a visionary and an integrator couldn't be more different. An integrator is a day-to-day getting things done kind of person, and the visionary is the person that wants to take the company to different levels, different heights. And that's great, but the two of those need to work really, really well together. Once we've identified those, we want to identify their roles. And then you really want to customize this for your organization. So functions can break up. So marketing and sales may become 2 different functions. You may have a couple different operating functions. Finance can break up sometimes into HR and IT and that type of thing. So you want to customize this for your company. So that's 100% strong in the people component. Next, I want to jump real quickly to the issues component. And the issues component is really about solving issues. And there's 2 things here as well. First is an issues list. So what we need to be good at is really getting all the issues on the table. What you really want, although it may seem counterintuitive, is you want to pull all the issues out of the organization. So you want everybody in the organization to have access to an issues list. You want the person on the shop floor or the delivery driver or whatever to be able to bring issues to the team so that we can solve those issues. Now, it's not you don't want to just have a bunch of complaining. You want to actually be able to solve these issues. And so what we have is an issue solving track we call IDS. So IDS simply stands for identify, discuss, and then solve. So a way that works like this is you typically go into a meeting and you just discuss, right? I mean, that's you get on a bunch of different tangents and topics and things like that. So what we want to do is we want to have this issues list and list out all the different issues that we're struggling with. Then you want to prioritize those issues. So you say, okay, this is issue number 1, that's issue number 2, that's the third priority issue. Then you take issue number 1 and you run it through identify, discuss, and solve. And so identify is all about what is the issue that we're dealing with. And that sounds really simple, and it is, but it's not that easy to do. What you really want to do is be able to say the issue in a single sentence. What are we really dealing with here? And so if you can do that, then everybody's in agreement. That's what our issue is. Then we can move on to discuss. If you go too fast through the identify, you just jump right into discuss, and you literally will talk about 7 different issues, and you'll do disservice to all of them, and you really will waste a lot of time, and you won't actually get much done. So focus on the issue, then go to discuss. Really, you should spend almost more time on identify than discuss typically, because once you've really identified what the issue is, it's fairly evident typically what you need to do. So once you've discussed it, then you move to solve. Usually that ends up being an action item for somebody, a to-do for the next week, for them to have a conversation with somebody or to research something or take an action. Once that issue's done, you go on to issue number 2 and you go back through the whole thing. Identify, discuss, solve. When that one's done, go to issue number 3 and so on and so forth. So that's the issues component, and you want to get 100% strong in the issues component. So again, this is the 6 key components. These are just a really quick overview of those, but those 3 things right there will make a huge difference. I'm happy to share some more thoughts on those and some of the tools. We'll even sit down with your leadership team and go through this in more detail with your entire leadership team if you'd like. There'll also be an ebook coming out with some additional resources, so feel free to reach out. And then lastly, there's my contact information if you'd like to get a hold of me and talk further about this. So let me stop share and we will switch over to Karen. So Karen, like I said, is the director of the Business Resource Center with Zions Bank in Boise. And Karen, if you've been on social media, you probably know Karen. She's very active on LinkedIn, has some great articles. She's had a great article in the Idaho Business Review here recently as well, and just does a fantastic job helping support our business community. And so we appreciate their support with Weathering the Storm, but also wanted to just have Karen share some of her thoughts and ideas as far as lessons learned and tools that you can use for moving forward in this time. So Karen, it's all yours.
All right. Thank you, Brent, and thank you, Cheryl, for this time today. Can you hear me all right, hopefully? All right. So I want to talk today a little bit about just a few lessons learned and then really focus on business pivots. It's a rare company that hasn't had to do a course correction at some point in time. And so, yes, the pandemic is a terrible situation, really, and it's forced us to take a good, hard look at our business foundation and see if we have any cracks that we need to shore up and see how we can modify what we're currently doing using some of the assets we already have, people or equipment, space, materials, to continue to meet needs which may be changing for customers in this changing environment. So just a few lessons learned first from the pandemic. It's so important to have the right team in place. And I don't just mean your internal team. Brent talked about that, the right people in the right seats, but I mean a team of advisors. one thing that we've discovered in this pandemic was how important a banking relationship was. When the Paycheck Protection loans came out, some banks said that they were only going to provide those loans to their existing customers. So if you didn't have a strong relationship with a banker, you might have moved to the back of the line. We also discovered that a line of credit was a lifeline. People who had access to capital right away and didn't have to wait for that sale that was postponed or didn't come because of the quarantine order, were able to still continue operating. And having that relationship with a banker also meant that if you had an existing loan in place, you were able to get some relief options, maybe a deferral of payment or interest-only payments, things of that nature. The other people that you always want to have in your team are a good insurance agent. Some people have never thought about business continuity insurance. Maybe it's time to look at that. I always suggest having an annual meeting with an insurance broker to really look at, have your business operations changed in such a way that you now have some different risks that you need to account for, because insurance is a first line of defense for you. And if you do have policies in place, make sure you read the fine print, because some people didn't realize that a virus wasn't covered in damages that, and now, you know, some companies are dealing with, businesses are dealing with looting from some of the riots that have taken place, or, and so insurance is really important. Having a lawyer and a CPA makes a huge difference, because they're going to look at things through a different lens and really help you mitigate risk and keep track of important data that you need. So those are just a few people that I think it's really important to have on your team. And obviously a business consultant of some sort is helpful, because it's hard. We tend to be myopic about our own business, and we don't always have perspective. And sometimes working with a business consultant is helpful in that manner. I'd like to talk about business pivots and what is a business pivot now. A pivot is really making a change in strategy without changing your vision. So some examples of pivots. Starbucks started out in 1971 selling espresso machines and coffee beans. Then they pivoted to really this European coffee house experience. They didn't change their values of high quality, high touch. They just changed the business model a little bit. Still in the coffee industry, obviously. Zions Bank, when we started doing the Paycheck Protection loans, we had to pivot in terms of using our resources differently. We had to train up some bankers who didn't normally do business lending, so that they were able to step in and help us with these huge volumes of loans. So sometimes a pivot isn't changing all of the things about your business. We still serve business owners, we still provide lending, financing solutions, but it's repurposing some of the assets that you have, people, equipment, place, so forth. So let's talk about, what would you look at in your business model when you're thinking about a pivot? Well, you probably want to start with your target market. Who are those customers or clients that you've been serving? Has anything changed in their lives? Are their priorities different? Are their habits different? Are their needs or wants different given the times we're in right now? And then you want to look at, are there other groups of people who might be experiencing that you've never reached out to before, but who have some similar situations like your current target market, and could you be reaching those people? And you want to look at your value proposition. What benefits are you providing in terms of the services and products you offer? And do you need to tweak that a little bit? Look at your core competencies. How can you leverage what you're already doing well, but making a change? You also want to look at your channels, the way you're selling, the way you're marketing too, that's a channel, and also your networks, your payment. How are you accepting payment? That may need to change. You want to look at your technology as a tool for perhaps becoming more efficient. How can you incorporate technology in your business model? I think it's also really important to tackle a complex problem by using a tool to organize your thoughts. Because when we think about pivoting our business, it may be overwhelming. So a simple tool that I like to suggest that my clients use is a SWOT analysis. SWOT, S-W-O-T, stands for strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. And all you do is take a piece of paper and you draw lines so that you have 4 quadrants. Top quadrant, strengths, that's the top left. The top right is weaknesses. Bottom left is opportunities. Bottom right is threats. So we're going to look at the internal environment. We're going to do an internal assessment of our company by looking at what strengths do we have and what weaknesses do we have. And you just make a list. And this can be a brainstorming that you do with your team, your employees, and so forth. Or maybe you're even working with advisors and you're using this tool in that setting. Then you look at list opportunities in the marketplace. Opportunities that may be available that weren't available before. So sometimes, as Brent said, chaos isn't always bad. It opens up new doors for you. Look at the threats that you're facing. Threats could be competitive, it could be regulatory, and so forth. So make these lists of the strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats to organize where are you right now and what's the environment you're operating in. And then think about how you can brainstorm ideas. Tell your team no idea is a stupid one. Everything's on the table right now, no judgment. Let's brainstorm in the environment we're in, looking at those opportunities and threats. What could we do using some of the assets that we already have, the strengths that we already have? Brainstorm everything. And then start filtering those ideas down, being a little more selective, what's really doable. And then when you've decided that you have a good idea, you want to do sort of a prototype. It doesn't mean that it's a physical prototype necessarily like a product, but you're developing a quick way to test, does this new idea work? So maybe you're doing some market research with a few customers and introducing this idea to those stakeholders. And then you can go back and tweak it. This is an iteration process. You think you're going to provide this, and then you see how the market's responding, and then you quickly change. Don't let obsession with perfection stand in the way. Don't let inertia or fear stand in the way. You've got to try to move forward. And then once you start determining through this sort of quick prototyping phase what's working, then you want to create an action plan of how to roll it out in a larger way, how to relaunch, well, sort of relaunching your business, but reframing the way you're doing your business. So I think it's important to prioritize, create a timeline for execution in a larger scale because you've been testing in a smaller environment. List those tasks that have to be done across a timeline. Take a look at what resources you have, what you can repurpose, what you need, and do you need more funding to pursue this new business opportunity with your new model. I think it's really important to do financial projections or forecasting. What will this new change cost our company? What will the potential revenue be? And Cheryl, in a previous episode, did an excellent job explaining how to do financial projections. And she had a template, a spreadsheet she shared. And I know that's available online, or certainly you could reach out to Cheryl for that. Really important to take those ideas and run them through a number crunching analysis to make sure that what you're envisioning really can pencil. And those are just some things to think about. It's a lot right now. There's a lot of stress going on. So I think if you can use some tools like Brent has shown you, like the SWOT analysis, or the tools that Mick will share later on, I think that's going to help you to be a little more organized in this process of envisioning who you can involve to, because remember, every good company has had to make changes at some point in time, and sometimes even a pandemic can be a catalyst for something good. Me.
Guess it'll help somebody. You. There we go. So Karen, thank you so much. That's super important, and I think you're right on that. Sometimes we feel like in the midst of all the chaos that we're dealing with, that are we going to be able to make it? Are we going to be able to adapt to these types of things? And yet, a lot of the great companies really have been formed in the crucible of a chaotic situation, and it actually made them better. And I think it's important for us all to understand and realize that these events that are happening externally or even internally in our business are happening, but we have so much that we can do, and we're engaged in the process. So it's not like we're just sitting idly by waiting for everything to happen to us. We're going to be proactively engaged. And so these tools you shared, I really appreciate that and some of those thoughts. So thank you. All right, Mick, let's bring you on, and I'd like to. So I was reading over your bio here a little bit, and this is pretty impressive. I'm kind of a little bit ashamed of myself. I'm looking at what you accomplished so far. So, no, you've done great. So, prior work with Boeing and some great stuff there that you've accomplished with Boeing and AT&T Wireless. It looks like you were recruited over here to Micron in 2007.
Yeah.
And then also COO of a $350 million global online and mobile digital marketing and e-commerce platform. Grew that to, what was it, 200 million customers and 6 million platform users. So very impressive.
Yeah.
So
Thank you.
I say all that to say, not to puff up your ego, but really to help everybody understand that you really understand what you're talking about. You've been there and done that in a lot of different types of markets and industries, not just one lane. You've had a lot of experience in operations as well as marketing and other disciplines. So I'm excited to hear what you have to share and kind of the tool you have. So
Sure.
let me spotlight
While
your
you're
video.
while you're pulling up the information, thank you, Brent and Karen, and also Cheryl. Yeah, thanks. I've had a blessed career and also lots more to learn. That's for sure. So, what I wanted to talk about today, and I'm going to keep it really simple for the next 5 to 10 minutes, and I'm going to leave this behind for you guys to look at now, and or if you listen to the recording, listen to it or walk through it later. And then if you also go to our site, rectify.net, there's some other work tools that I think will help for sales and marketing operations and financials. But the main thing I wanted to cover today was in the theme of weathering the storm and change. Change it's an opportunity, so take advantage of it. I know it's challenging, but the questions I have, and I'll walk through kind of a detailed assessment for a little bit on the next slide. But the first thing is looking at the questions you're faced every day and looking in the mirror and looking at your business. How is your cash flow working today? How have your markets changed? Do you know your highest margin customers? Think about that one, your highest margin customers. You should know them. If you don't, sharpen the pencil, because those are key ones. And then also look at your supply chain, no matter if it's a product, a service, even if it's software you're developing. How are you going through that process today, and what's changed in front of you? And the last one that's key that I've stressed on, I was fortunate, Alan Mulally was my mentor. He was the president for Boeing Aerospace, became the CEO for Ford. And Alan used to always talk about metrics. What gets measured gets done. So know your key metrics and what you're measuring. And Brent, if you want to go to, kind of tab down a little bit, I'd like to stop, and there's 3 legs of this stool I want to cover. And the first one is really optimizing your working capital. And if you look on the far left, is really talked about kind of the current business model today. So these are things that if you think about blocking and tackling, if I look at the top left corner and it says cash is really tight and we're hoping for the best. If you're in that situation, well, at least you're aware of it, but hoping for the best is not always the most sound business plan. And if you look below that, it talks about our financial reports are decent, but we have to rely on our gut instincts right now. Our margins will come back. If you look to the far right, and these are the things that we call winning strategies, these are things we try to instill in folks every day, is really looking at, and it's got to be just kind of, if you look at it as a stretch goal, is, our daily cash forecasting, and we're having cash huddles that provides us kind of that line of sight, that visibility, understand what shortfalls are. So Now that may be overzealous in regards to having a daily cash huddle, but when you really think about what that could do and the near sight and also the foresight of how you can run your business, it's so important versus kind of hoping things will come back. And if you go underneath the one next to it that says, we know our cost and our margins, our drivers, they've reshaped and our data is telling them what they are. Once again, it comes back to the data and understanding what the data is telling you, understanding what your margins are, and also understanding what those specific drivers are. So when you think about just best in class, think about best practices, that's the stretch goal. What would it take to get to something like that? And the third one under optimizing your working capital on the far right there, kind of in the bottom of that category, when you really look at, the working capital, we're strategically accessing available government and private funds. And especially as Karen talked about COVID today, there's a good opportunity to secure some of that funding, which I'm sure some of you have already done, but there's also, moving forward, there'll be other opportunities like that potentially on the funding side. That's why that, to Karen's point, having that local bank or that presence where you can get capital and ease of capital is a great thing, especially in regards to specialized times where we're in today. So that's kind of looking at the capital structure of it. And then the other part that Karen did a great job is really hyper-focused on what are your customers and your markets doing today? Things have changed. So where are you at in that change? So if I look at the upper left corner that where it talks about our market has probably changed, but it'll bounce back to normal, I think. And you see some of the restaurants and things like that that are in situations like that today that, really think through that. The one below that talks about our behaviors and expectations. We either return or before, or we can figure it out. That's probably not the soundest of strategies. If you go to the far right and you're thinking about some of the winning strategies, that upper right one that starts with answers, it talks about, really answers are already appearing in our market intelligence in our competitor research. So what does that say? Our market intelligence, we're paying attention the best that we can right now of what that market's doing. We're looking at our competitors. And it baffles me sometimes with Rectify Partners, and we help small to mid-sized companies scale every day, and how few of them really understand what their competitors are doing. And those are just simple tasks of going on their sites, look what they're posting, look at kind of webinars they're joining. In regards to a lot of times you can understand their strategy pretty quickly too. So those are just blocking and tackling things we all need to get better at. But if you look at the second one under there that starts with we are already, it talks about we already taking action. We're adjusting our strategies and we're adopting and influence our highest margin customers, prospects, and verticals. So once again, it goes back to, as Karen talked about, your base customers. What are you doing to make sure you're keeping them happy, that you're adding value, and also internally you're looking at what margins they're providing and also opportunities to, one, retain them, and also do an expansion. And that same thing on the other side of the coin is looking at your prospects and your opportunities in front of you in regards to how do you get new business? What does that look like? Things that definitely changed and pivoted to the right in regards to digitally. What is your digital strategy from a sales, from a marketing perspective? Is it working? Are you measuring it? Are you tracking it? Those are all fundamental blocking and tackling items, but it takes work, it takes energy, but it also takes focus. But those are some suggestions. And like I said, I don't want to go too far in the weeds on that, but I'll leave this behind, but those are things you can challenge your business every day. And when you get down to the last leg of the stool, when you look at kind of operations and analytics, same thing on the far left, it talks about we're just hoping to keep our team intact and get back to work. And the next one's talking about it'd be great to get back to our normal routines and daily processes. And we all would love that, don't get me wrong. But if you think about change and things have changed and they'll continue to change, maybe it's an opportune time if you look on the right where you're actually shopping right now for some fantastic talent. You had some gaps before and people are looking around right now for opportunities and different opportunities. So it may be a good time to really look at your bench and look at opportunities, how you can continue to enhance that with top quality folks. And that will help you, one, retain your business, and two, grow your business. And if you look at the second one in the middle, it really talks about kind of reshaping, and Brent talked about that a little bit too, in your organization and what has changed there, especially from an operations perspective and also metrics and a dashboard. I'm a big fan of having dashboards and what we call key performance indicators or KPIs that allows you to see how well your business is performing or not performing. If it has to do with, revenue growth, expansion, retention, new product introductions, all those things matter, but you only have so much money and so much time. So it's really key to continue to keep it simple, keep focused, and keep fighting the fight. So once again, I'll leave this behind. You guys can look at, feel free to talk to us at any time. We actually offer free consultation if you want to, for your business. If you're struggling, or if you're just thinking, God, am I doing the right thing to get to the next level? That's what we do every day. So thanks for the opportunity. Hopefully you added some value here.
That's great. Thanks, Mick. I
Sure.
appreciate what you guys do, and really that expertise you bring to bear. And we'll have that tool that will be available in the follow-up.
Awesome.
So everybody that registered will be able to get a copy of that, download that tool, and has your contact information to reach out. I'd highly recommend that everybody does reach out to you guys and really get more information about what you do, because you bring a lot to bear to help companies. And
Thank you.
Rectify Partners and Profit Creek have kind of joined forces, if you will, for these workshops,
Sure.
but we also join forces in general in helping businesses too. So the entrepreneurial operating system is a great base layer for what you guys do and how you take off. So
Thank you. Well, we try to have some fun too.
exactly.
All right. Thanks, Brett. Thank you all.
Thanks. So Angie, let's bring you on. So Angie is the co-owner and founder of Boise Music Lessons. So Angie and her partner Marcus have founded Boise Music Lessons. So it's a boutique home studio, and really it's more than just helping people learn to play an instrument. You're really about that immersive community experience. They really are kind of an interesting story. I just got to know Angie a little bit, just briefly, as we've been kind of prepping for this talk. So that's why I'm kind of reading your bio here a little bit. But I love how you really focused on adults and helping people understand that they can actually play an instrument, even though they're maybe a little older, and think, well, kids play instruments, and I've always wanted to, but maybe I can never do it. And you really open that door for them. Have those one-on-one lessons, and then I love the collaborative group Hootenannies. So that's awesome. And just kind of breaking down those preconceived barriers to music and showing how people can participate in group jams and just have a lot of fun playing music. And then also the different sip and strum classes you've done and different things. So what I'd like to do is just kind of have you share your story briefly of kind of the things that you have gone through. You and Marcus, as you were running your business, everything was going along great, and all of a sudden, wham, coronavirus hits, right? Like all the rest of us. But you actually kind of capitalized on that. It actually worked out good in a way, and you're continuing to pivot, but at least there's some good stories there. So I'll turn this over to you and let you take it from there.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Brent. Thanks for having me. It's been an adventure, as you can probably guess. So Marcus and I started Boise Music Lessons in 2016, in January of 2016. We'd been teaching lessons for, probably 10, 12 years before that, but we'd never seen a way that we could turn it into an actual viable business model. And coming from our backgrounds, I have a background in music, English, and health science, and Marcus has a background in city planning, transportation, communications, and bicycle mechanicking. So with those backgrounds, we'd never had any kind of business training. So all of the things that we've learned through the years have been very much kind of trial by fire pivots, and just exhausting all the resources that we can for small creative business owners. So hopefully our perspective will give you some additional, perspective that you wouldn't get from a larger business. We do feel fortunate in being so small that we have the ability to pivot quickly. Our meetings are just two people, so we chat about whatever issues we see that are happening in that moment, and then we just decide right then, okay, we're gonna try this, we're gonna pilot this, and just go from there. So I feel like the last 4.5 years have been it's been very good training for what we're experiencing right now. We have never had the same business model for more than a year. So we try something for a year and then we change it. So let me start with a little bit more about our top target audience, because I think that gives some interesting perspective as to how we make our decisions. So our target audience is actually women in their 50s. It seems to be a really great audience that they're wanting to experience something new in life. Maybe their kids are grown, maybe they're in a place in their career where they feel like they can add some extra me time. I hate to use that phrase, but something special just for them. And people usually don't think that they can learn an instrument later in life, or maybe they want to play with their family, they want their kids to play music, but they don't have any way to model that. So because of that, we have noticed through the years, we started out teaching kids because that's what, who wanted to take lessons. People would say, teach my kid this instrument. And over the years, we realized that there's this entire market out there that is really enthusiastic when it comes to playing, but they just don't know what steps to take. And they're scared. They don't want to go to like a big music store and take lessons from someone in a practice room. And we have this just cozy little home studio where people can come in and learn from, it feels like, we're all friends here. So they want to come and learn from us in this really intimate environment. And they also want a way to apply their learning in a group setting. So that's how we designed what we call our group Hootenannies. So that's where after a few weeks of lessons, we all come together as a studio and we learn a song together as a group. And that's kind of the magical component that makes our studio so special, because it's not that you're playing music in a vacuum by yourself. It's you actually get these touch points where you can experience this together. So because of that community aspect, we had some pretty big challenges when the pandemic hit. We know that a lot of our friends and neighbors in their music studios that we know through online groups, they all went to online teaching, and so did the local teachers as well. We don't share a lot of the target audiences, so with the local teachers, so I don't usually use them as a model for what I should be doing in our business. But most of our colleagues online, they went to teaching Zoom lessons. So that seemed like the logical next step. However, we have that group element, and people really value that, and they value their community, and they value seeing their friends here. And so when we went online, we didn't know how we were going to maintain that same feel. So we decided to do, I'm learning all the appropriate words. Normally I just fly by the seat of my pants, but we did a prototype. Thank you for that verbiage there. So we did a prototype of what our Hootenannies will look like when they are online. So we reached out to our mailing list folks and our Instagram following, and we said, hey, we're gonna do this online, we call them sip and strums when we do them out in the community and people can buy tickets. So we're going to do this online sip and strum class. So go ahead and hop on and learn a song with us and give us a donation that we'll pass on to some great community organizations. Because at that time, if you notice, the conversation had gone to, we need to support local, we need to support people that are suddenly out of work. They didn't have a lot of safety nets yet, the unemployment hadn't kicked in and things like that. So we did a fundraiser for local musicians through the the Treefort Live Music Relief Fund, and then also for one of our neighbors, it's a nonprofit, the Boise Hive, that provides free mental health resources to local musicians. So we marketed, by giving some back to our community, and we did a prototype of this sip and strum class, and it was just so much fun and everyone loved it, and we just got great responses, and we raised a decent amount of money. So we decided to continue on with that online group model, and we launched a full-on class series that we called our virtual sip and strum series. And so we got a whole new audience there, and the audience was bigger than we could reach in Boise. We had people playing in Northern Idaho. We had folks in Oregon and in California join in. So it was really nice to be able to expand our reach since we'd been so hyper local before. With our existing students in that core program, where we have them sign up for a membership and take the one-on-one lessons with us and the group Hoot Nannies, we had kind of mixed results. So I think that initially everything was great because over the years we'd been honing our product to work better with our lifestyle. So we don't do well with a lot of turnover. No business does, but we have to create that community feel. So if we're constantly just bringing in new people and people are leaving, then folks can't settle and feel comfortable. So we have our students play with us for either an 18-week semester or a full year. And so because of that model, we didn't lose any students when COVID hit, which was amazing. It was hard to watch our friends struggling with restaurants and things like that, and we were secure. So we were able to keep moving forward and work on our back end stuff, our finances. We refinanced our house through our banker at Zions, and did some stuff to help keep us and our business safe. But we knew that things were going to keep changing and we would have to keep pivoting. So initially when we took our students online, they all adapted really quickly, which was just fantastic. After a while, those who had, those that had been playing with us for a long time, they really missed the in-person Hoot Nannies, and they started to get really burned out with being online. I think we attract a lot of folks that don't like being online. They want something tactile that they can do, and they want something that they can participate in with their community. So it kind of went against one of our core values for this particular target audience to have this experience be online. So we got to the end of our spring semester, that just wrapped up last week, and then we have to make more pivots. And we don't necessarily know what those are just yet. So we sent out a survey to our core members and asked we do what we call a summer mini session, which is just for our annual members. So it's kind of a special thing, and it's just the people that commit the most and are the most enthusiastic. So we trust them as our target audience. And we asked, okay, for this summer mini session, what do you want to do? Do you want to keep going online? Do you want to meet at a park? What would you like to do? So everyone said that they wanted to meet at a park this summer for their Hoot Nannies. So we have decided in July we're going to just meet outside and do social distancing and play music together. We also in the last few weeks piloted a program that we called Lawn Lessons. So during their one-on-one lessons, they met us outside of our studio, and we set up some ropes to keep everyone at a safe distance and wore masks and tried their one-on-one lessons like that. And the people that came for that, they got their very much needed one-on-one in-person, face-to-face experience, and you could tell that really revitalized them. So I guess what I am taking away from this whole experience is that we don't know what our fall semester will look like, but we do know that people really want that in-person experience. The people that have selected to come to our program, they really value that. So we're exploring using larger venues, being outside as much as we can, seeing what we need to do in our home studio to keep us and our family safe and our students safe. If we need to change our air circulation systems or set up plexiglass, we're not quite sure what we're going to do there. We're actually taking a class with like OSHA and the CDC and such next week, so we'll learn a little more there. So that continuing education is a good piece of what we do. But kind of identifying the needs of our target audiences and getting back to how we can stay mission focused is what we're doing right now. So we know that the folks in our target audience want that in-person experience, but the folks that we attracted to that virtual Sip and Strum had so much fun, and that was really great to reach outside of our local area, that we have decided to continue that virtual Sip and Strum. So we're now on our second class series of that, and it starts on Thursday. So we're just finishing up enrollment for that. So we've decided to kind of expand our offerings to the folks that really want that in-person feel, and the folks that are just wanting a way to connect and play and stay home in their pajamas and open a bottle of wine and in the comfort of their own home and play some music. So it has been kind of nice to see how our offerings can expand, and we'll just keep on pivoting. So
That's great. Well,
yeah.
it sounds like, really the chaos of this whole thing actually opened a whole new market to you that you wouldn't have probably taken advantage of before.
It's true.
All that online audience. And then I love how you were talking about the data that you're getting. You don't probably think of it as getting data so much, but you're reaching out to your key customers, and really again understanding what they want and helping to fill that need. And so those kind of data points are great to have. So that's awesome. Well, thank you so much, Angie, for sharing this.
Yeah, thank you.
What you're doing, and we wish you well. We'll have more information in the ebook as well, and especially if you're somebody that wants to take up music lessons and you've not been doing it, fall lessons start up here coming up in a few months. So great, Angie. Thank you so much. So what I'd like to do now, Cheryl, why don't you jump on? And what I'd like to have you do is share a little bit about PKG and your experience. So Cheryl is, as any of you that have been on these Weathering the Storms or seen the promotional material, is my co-host for this. So I don't get to take all the credit. Cheryl does a ton of work on these Weathering the Storm series as well. And it's been fun to work on these with you. But Cheryl has her hands in a million things. We don't have enough time for me to go through and read her bio of all the stuff she does. But she is fantastic in finance and those types of things, and works with PKG. And so I'm going to turn it over to you, Cheryl, and let you kind of share your experience on PKG. And then why don't you take us into the Q&A at the end? So I'll just do a quick shout out. If you've been listening and there's some questions, please put your questions in so that we can have some good Q&A here at the end. So with that, Cheryl, it's yours.
All right. Thank you. Thank you, everybody, for sharing all the wonderful information that you did today. So I'm being with the Meridian Chamber and kind of being with the community, I wanted to go a little bit into not just PKG, but some of the other businesses throughout the Valley that have been able to pivot. And, we've heard of a lot of companies that have pivoted due to COVID and reaching out to the community, especially into the healthcare industry, and really looking at ways in which they can help. Idaho Department of Commerce has been a great partner with that, as well as SWEMA also has really been helping some of the local businesses to reach out to from the federal government opportunities that have been across in the manufacturing. We've seen Buck's Bag as well as PKG kind of pivot their manufacturing capabilities and helping both our communities. They've reached out to St. Luke's and provided face masks and gowns, as well as face masks. Actually, internationally, PKG was actually to be able to get onto a contract to start helping to build face masks and manufacture masks internationally. We saw a lot of need for that and continual need, as we know that this is going to potentially have a second wind, as well as potentially a year to 2 years of being able to be protected against the COVID virus before we get an antibody. So some of the other companies we've also seen that have been able to pivot in the medical industries, we've seen Camille Beckman as well as Koenig. They've taken some of their recipes and their manufacturing capabilities and started making hand sanitizers, which I think is great, because we have all seen, I'm sure you guys went to the grocery store and the shelves were completely out. And we know that, that's one of the things to keep our businesses, both our employees as well as our customers, safe, is to be able to provide hand sanitizer. So if anybody's in need of any, reach out to Camille Beckman and to Koenig. They're offering it on their website as well as in some of the local stores. But, some of the things that we talked about today is not just pivoting due to COVID. Sometimes, as we've seen with COVID, we've seen revenue declines, but we also see businesses through different things in the market that they've had declines in revenues, and their bottom line has continued to decrease. And so they've had to be able to stay in the competition as well as increase those bottom lines, is they've had to look at other areas to pivot. We heard from Angie that, some exciting things that they were able to do to continue to build their bottom line. If you've seen in the news, there was a bar up in Council that was able to, because they weren't able to open up their bar, but they were able to turn their bar into a grocery store and start delivering groceries to the local community. We've also seen Jewel Case. They're an energy battery backup manufacturer in Garden City, and they sell small battery units for home and for camping, but they also provide large battery systems for the music industry. And they travel with these trailers around to concerts, and because all the concerts have been canceled, we're not sure exactly when those are going to be coming back to the communities and back, that they have now pivoted to be able to provide these batteries at a smaller scale to also allow homes to be self-sustaining, partnering with some local solar companies to be able to be self-sustaining through the sun, to be able to provide electricity for hours to even days. We've also seen several of the gyms that have also pivoted, and they've gone online for more online coaching, exercise classes. We've seen a lot of restaurants being able to do home deliveries, curbside. So, one of the things I think is important, not just during economic crisis and downturns, but if there is things that happen to hit your business because the customer needs have changed, is really looking outside the box and thinking, what are some of the other things that we've learned, both from other businesses, as well as kind of where is technology, where is things advancing for the future, to be able to maybe implement some things within your business that can help to increase the bottom line and be able to provide some of that additional customer service and product to the ongoing market. So I think that it's really important for companies to really kind of look at their business model on an annual, quarterly, annual basis, and look at, is there other areas and other markets that we can take advantage of to increase our bottom line? So I appreciate everybody's time today. We want to go ahead and open it up to questions. If people have specific questions they would like to ask, there's a chat box. Also, if you want to raise your hand, we'll unmute you and you can ask your specific question.
Yeah, we'll have everybody open their videos up. All the panelists open their videos and back up. We don't have any in the Q&A yet, so this might be a really short Q&A session. So, but yeah, if you'd like to ask a question, feel free to raise your hand and we'll get that. Otherwise, we'll wrap up here in just a couple of minutes. So Cheryl, go ahead.
I have a question for Karen. Karen, so you have with Zions Bank, you see a lot of companies throughout the Treasure Valley. Can you give us maybe another success story of a company that you've been in contact with, that you've seen, that has also kind of pivoted their organization?
Sure. I don't know if you're familiar with SM Heuristics, but this is a company that really is known for helping, being a resource for marketing, helping do market research, industry research, helping businesses understand how to message and market to people. And because they happen to have a lot of connections in Asia, they've been able to use those connections to get the personal protective equipment here. And so what they're doing is they have a daily newsletter. Here's what PPE equipment we have available. And so this was not, obviously their core business. Their core business is helping companies with marketing, but the fact that they had connections already in Asia just gave them a a pipeline to create a supply chain for the PPE equipment. So that's very different from what they're doing. Now, I'm sure that they're still continuing their excellent marketing work, but this is just another way to add more value and really address an important need. Voxen Clothing is another company. They're making face masks. They design and manufacture and sell wholesale and retail women's clothing, athleisure wear. I always have trouble with that word. And so now they're doing face masks, not only for their own customers, but they have them in some other stores, because obviously sewing is a skill they already have. They already have the machines. They know how to design. So just another example.
I have a manufacturing client that sells through dealerships, and they ended up losing a lot of that business just really overnight. And had to Mick's point, they had the data, they had the scorecard, so they could see what was happening, and so then they were able to pivot pretty quickly and move from a dealer, brick and mortar dealer, to online, and they're actually just going crazy right now with that business, and it's going to be a long-term enhancement to their business. It's not just a short-term COVID thing, not to diminish the people that are making masks and different things. That's a temporary thing, though, that's going to probably end up going away, or at least Lord willing, it will. But this is a business that's going to be able to grow their business and be more sustainable in the long haul. So it's interesting how these challenges that come at us really can help us improve our business, and where otherwise we may just kind of be, I don't know if complacent's the right word, but we may not be motivated to look at those things as much as when everything goes crazy. Great.
Hey,
well, yeah.
This is Mick. I have one also too that Karen had shared, but we're actually helping a company called Silverback Learning, which is focused on helping students, helping teachers thrive, along with administrators. So I know from a product perspective, they've pivoted in a fantastic way about self-assessments for kids right now. Everybody with schools and the disruption in schools, we know there's going to be some learning gaps, and they've kept it very simple and have been rolling out tools and techniques that allow us quickly to see where students are today from a learning perspective that the administrators can use, and then later also it'll help us from a teacher perspective too. And the digital gap versus being in school and how effective folks are or not. So they've pivoted in rolling out some fantastic tools across districts across the United States. So that one's fun to watch also, and Silverback Learning.
That's great.
Yeah.
Scott, go ahead. We got you.
Can you hear me?
I think so. Yep.
Hey, I just had a question to the panel. Is a lot of people, say they're zoomed out, but to me, it's been great because it's saved me a lot of time. I've had some people that I haven't seen in a long time. Have you guys seen other businesses now going to adopt as part of their, kind of their business is having more people work remote, more people using, Zoom type, solutions versus all being in the same room?
Nope. Karen, you're muted.
There we go. Sorry. I wanted to just talk about how the Business Resource Center at Zions has pivoted. So typically we have conducted in-person workshops, mostly because entrepreneurs love to network with each other face-to-face. Sometimes they like to get out of their home office or their business to really focus on learning. Well, of course, with COVID, and social distancing, that's not always possible. So we've taken our trainings online. And the benefit is that now we can reach the entire state. So we've been able to promote our workshops through our bankers in North Idaho, East Idaho, Central Idaho, even, Caldwell and Nampa, which might have been a trip for some people to come to downtown Boise for a class. So, and then we also thought, well, now that we're doing virtually, my counterpart in Salt Lake she runs the Utah Business Resource Center for Zions, and she's Hispanic and she's a native speaker. So we decided, well, let's have joint workshops together, and we can do a Spanish speaking Inside Secrets to Funding Your Business, utilizing her. We can both invite clients from 2 states to these workshops now with using one trainer. So that's just one way we are pivoting. Even though we're a business unit within a larger company, you have to pivot at whatever level you're at right now.
Great, thanks. Yeah, it's, I think there's a little bit of Zoom fatigue, but I think people are enjoying the fact that they get to work from home, and so they want that human interaction. I suspect that we'll have a hybrid. I don't think we'll just go back to in person all the time. I think there's going to be this desire to continue to want to be able to do some things over Zoom. We all got a crash course on using Zoom, right? Everybody and their dog uses Zoom now. So great. Thanks, Scott. Appreciate that. Well, hey, I don't see any other questions. So if you do have additional questions that come up, you can always reach out to us. We'll be sending an email out with additional information. Feel free to respond back to us via that email or contact either of us, Cheryl and I, or any of the panelists if you'd like. I'm sure anybody would be happy to talk with you. These workshops are really designed to, again, help give you practical tools. So if there's some other things that you're struggling with in your business, topics that you'd like to hear about, let us know. We'd love to go out through our extensive networks and pull in experts that we can have talk about those topics. The next session, which is 2 weeks from today, is going to be on leadership. We're going to be diving into really ideas on how you can become effective leaders and some tips and tools to use for that to help you navigate through this, but just navigate in general. So stay tuned for information coming out on that. But without any other questions, I'm going to say thank you so much, and thank you, panelists. It was excellent information, and I appreciate the stories and the information. So everybody have a great rest of your day.